Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I've got my earpods in. So tonight we are speaking into the nervous system 101. So I'm just waiting for Leashia. Here she is. Okay. Just waiting for that to load. Hopefully. Here we go. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Good. Lovely to see you again. How quick did that week go? Oh my God. Crazy. So crazy.
So great.
Um, I was just saying to everybody before you joined that obviously tonight we're talking all things nervous system 101. I can't
Mhm.
wait for this conversation. I'm really excited. So I guess I'll hand over to you to lead this week.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. I'm excited too. So tonight we're going to explore a little bit about what the nervous system is, and I'm also going to let people know how you can actually start to heal your nervous system. So it's not going to be just a bunch of old fluff. It's actually going to have some action in there as well, because if we want to heal, we also need information and action as well. So there will be some action steps as well at the end of this.
Amazing.
So stay to the end
Cool.
if you want the action
Yes.
steps.
Yes.
And if you're coming on at a later stage and you're not watching it live, feel free to still put questions in the questions box because we can address them at a later stage. It's always really great to get your questions because, one, it helps me know what people actually want and what they need. And yeah, it's also good to, dive deeper into topics that maybe I'm not aware of that people really want some clarification around. So I'm sure Kelly's also got lots of questions that she's wanting to ask as well.
I
And
do. I've always got questions. I think it's a one line thing. Yeah, I'm excited. And yeah, that's so true is if you're listening and it's not live, like just yeah, drop the questions in the comments and we'll get back to you. And I think sometimes it's like, when you're in when and I'm speaking to everyone, when you're doing your job and you just know the thing that you're doing like the back of your hand, you just sometimes get a bit of a tunnel vision and you forget sometimes that people's levels of knowledge and awareness are at such different stages, and sometimes we have to like bring it back to like the basics sometimes and just understand that not everyone knows all these different topics as in depth as what we might do or you might do. Do you know what I mean? So with human design, sometimes I forget that actually I am quite deep in the knowledge. And sometimes I just assume, oh, well, everyone knows what XYZ means, but they don't. And I think, yeah, and that's okay, because we're all learning all the time. Like I'm going to be learning so much from you tonight. Um, and then vice versa, in the human design week. So yeah, I'm just super excited for this combo.
awesome. Yeah, thanks for highlighting that, Kelly. So I thought I would actually start with a little story about how I actually got into this work. And the reason for that is not to just tell you my story because I want to, but actually because I think it really highlights a great it's a great way to kind of like highlight what nervous system work actually is. So I actually started my online business in the nutrition space. So I was teaching women how to lose weight after having a baby because that was the journey that I was on. And when I first came out of school, I learned how to be a PT, a personal trainer, and nutrition. So that is where I started. And I was coming on and I was giving, these women all of this information and like, yeah, killing it, get them to do this and eat this and do this exercise and, you're gonna lose the weight and blah, 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 which was great for some people. But what I noticed was that no matter how much information people had, they couldn't seem to follow through with the steps. So I started to think, okay, something's deeper is going
Mm.
on here, right? So I started looking more into like people's behavior and how they show up and habits, the psychology of it. And then that led me into the biology of the nervous system. And actually, I want you to even just think of a time where it's like, you've read all the books, right? You've read all the parenting books, you know all the information,
Yeah.
but every time, your child throws all the Lego over the floor, you feel triggered and you react instead of respond. And you can't find that pause, what they talk about, the pause between, going and scoffing your face in the cupboard with a load of crisps because you're like, I just need to make crisps right now.
Yeah.
And like knowing that that's not what you want to do, all the information, right?
Hmm.
You can't put it into action.
Hmm.
That is your nervous system at play.
Yeah.
So if you have ever had that feeling or that thought of like, I know I shouldn't be doing this and I shouldn't be reacting in this way, but I just don't know how to stop it. And you do have all the information. Just know that, it's not your fault. It's your patterning, and it's actually how your nervous system is trying to protect you. It's an automatic um, response. And I guess that really brings me to like, what is the nervous system? So the nervous system is like our internal communication system. So it's what bridges our brain and our body together. And it's like, I guess, like a super highway, you could call it. And it's constantly scanning your environment for safety. And it's asking, the question, am I safe or am I in danger? And your nervous system it starts to develop in the womb, and it can also, when we talk about generational patterns and how, and this might be a little bit deeper, but just if anything goes a bit too deep for you, just let it wash over.
Mm.
Like you take what you need and just leave what you don't need. You'll get from this whatever is meant to land for you will land for you. And you might come back at a later stage and be like, oh, I get what she was talking about now. But if you don't
Hmm.
know what I was talking about, ask a question,
Hmm.
or just let it wash over you. um so yeah, when we talk about like generational patterns and stuff, this is really what people are talking about, how our nervous system develops, and how then we are attuned to, as we're infants and as we move through life. So one of the key players in our nervous system is actually the vagus nerve, and it's like a long nerve that goes all the way from the top of our head all the way down to the back of our spine. And there's some nerves that come out into our gut, and you may or may not have heard of like
Mm.
the gut brain. This is what they're
Yeah.
about. It's actually the vagus nerve that is connecting your like gut brain access to your actual brain. So the main job of the vagus nerve is this, to detect these cues, right, of safety and danger. And then those signals determine how you show up in the world. Um, so that's a little bit about like, I guess, what the nervous system is in a really
Mm.
simple way.
That was great,
Um,
actually, just that explanation, because I feel, just to add here, is, if you are online and in the healing coaching space, like this term nervous system is thrown around a lot. and it is so complex. It really is, isn't it? Like you can attest to this. Like this is your zone of genius. Like you're the expert. It's so complex. So to be able to explain it simply for people to understand is really key. And it's funny because I remember I was in a gym setting a few months back and we're doing this exercise and the lady was like, do this exercise. It's great for your nervous system. And like I have an understanding of what, the nervous system is and, through the work that I do. And I just thought, I wonder if everyone else here even knows what the nervous system is. So it was just like this random comment that kind of got me thinking. And like people should know what it is because it impacts every single one of us every day. So that was a really lovely, scientific but easy to understand explanation.
Yeah, and I could go into so much more depth
Mm,
around that. And I think as we move forward into other sections, we'll be able to like talk more about, the different sides of the nervous system, the survival state and the safety state.
yeah,
But I thought tonight we'll just keep it really sort of like surface level, and then how you can actually start to
yeah.
implement it, because you don't need to actually know the ins and outs of the nervous system to be able to start doing the nervous
Mm,
system work. And what you said there, about why it's important, the nervous system really is the foundation to our healing, and it really shapes how we experience safety, connection, and stress as well. It's part of our stress state as well. So I think when we have an understanding of the nervous system and how it works, we can actually start to meet ourselves with more compassion. And I think
mm,
that's really what this work is about, meeting ourselves with more compassion and being able to work with our body in rather than like against um ourselves. So we're not, thinking, why are we reacting like this? Or I'm too
mm,
sensitive, or I just need to calm down, or oh, what's
mm,
wrong with me? And I think that was like a big part of like my journey, especially being
mm,
a yoga teacher as well. Like I would get so triggered by things and then think, oh, but I've got all these like tools in my
mm,
box. Like, why am I still feeling really triggered in my
mhm,
relationships?
mhm.
Um, and why
I
am I not able to like show up in the way that I want to show up? And it
mhm,
wasn't until I started really learning about trauma and the nervous system
mhm,
um, that it started to be like, oh, okay, I get
mm,
why I'm reacting in this way. And then from that, once I started going my own journey, I then created a framework which I call the Emotional Freedom Framework. I actually then created a framework around how to actually heal your triggers, because a lot of the
mhm.
time in the healing world as well, what I've noticed is we get really stuck in this like awareness phase. And I think this is what was kind of really important for us bringing this to the
Yeah.
Instagram, is like, how do we actually action this? How do we
Mm,
actually start to bring this work
mm.
to our everyday lives? Like, how
Yeah.
do we actually change?
Yeah.
You
I
know?
I love this. And this is it, when I have given readings and I'll say to like a generator, for example, you responding with your gut and just listen to your body. But it's just like, okay, I know how, like I logically, like you're telling me this, but how do I actually do it in practice? And this is where this work comes in. And actually, I do have a question for you because and this is my own experience as well, and things that my clients really struggle with is like they have these things in life that they want to do or not want to do, whether that's the reacting to the children like you just mentioned, whether it's like they want to eat healthy, they want to move their bodies because they have like some health and fitness goals. And like this is why this work, I got goosebumps, but this is why this work is so important to every single human on this planet, because we all have goals and we all want to achieve things, and we can get really frustrated with ourselves when we set a goal of whatever X goal is, and yet we just cannot seem to just do the thing. Like it's easy on paper, but to actually do it, why is this so hard? I know I need to do X, Y, Z, but you just physically like cannot do it. And I think this is where this work like obviously comes in, because once you really understand your nervous system, your triggers, everything, you can start to heal. Then you can go and, eat healthy, go to the gym, whatever the goal is, because you're more regulated and, you're not running on these old, outdated patterns.
Mm, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So what
So
was
yeah,
the
so
question
my
within
question
that?
is, what is your advice for people that are struggling with, they've got these goals, let's say it's like a health and fitness goal, or they want to, be less reactive with their children, but they just can't seem to do it. Like what do we do? Give us your expert tips.
Well, I think you've beautifully already explained that, right? We start looking at our own patterns and becoming more aware of of our triggers, becoming aware of like why it is what we do, why we do what we do, instead of shaming ourselves
Mm,
for not doing it and get spiraling into those patterns of shame and blame. Um, Come to yourself from a more compassionate and curious space. And I really, this is something that I work on with so much with my clients, because so many of us seem to be, and this is like a really strong pattern with all of my clients, that we seem to be so hard on ourselves,
yeah.
and we find it so difficult to be compassionate and curious with ourselves. And this really is like what the work is, right? It's learning, like, where do we actually need to bring some more compassion, curiosity, self-acceptance, so that we can soften. And I think one of the biggest things that people skip in the nervous system work, that's really important, is understanding our baseline of like how safe or unsafe we feel in our nervous system and in our bodies, because so many women come to me, um, and they don't feel safe in their nervous system. And when we start to explore that, it's like, oh, okay, so if we're not feeling safe, where are we, right?
Mm,
We're living in survival mode.
mm,
We're living from that state of reactivity, instead of being able to like stay grounded. And
mm,
as well, I'd like to just point out that um this work isn't about staying calm all the time and being
mm,
like regulated every single minute of every single day, otherwise you're a crappy person, right? This is really about like having the capacity to hold all of life's experiences. And really, that's what nervous system work has been about for me, is like having the capacity to hold the stress, hold the
mm,
anger, hold the rage, hold other people's emotions.
mm,
Um, and I think so often we're told that we should, be calm all the time and not react, and um, all these things. But really, it's about having that capacity to just like be with.
mm,
And as we've been through an embodied processing session together, and
mm,
a lot of that work around the embodied processing is around like being with what's present, welcoming in the triggers, welcoming in the anger and the reactivity and the shame and the blame and the stories, and like sitting with that.
mm.
um,
And just with that, if we don't do that, if we don't, sit with our feelings, process our feelings in a healthy way, like what sorts of things can happen? Like how can we, like what are some symptoms that someone might experience in their daily life? like the struggles?
I think just probably what we've talked about before, Kelly, but the biggest thing that was really noticeable for me was I struggled with chronic pain.
Mm,
When I had my second child, I had all this chronic pain, and that led me onto this mind body connection program. And that's where I started to learn about the nervous system and all the trauma and how emotions can get stored in
mm,
our muscles. That's where they get stored, right? So even from, and that may sound like a bit woo woo, but it really isn't. And once I started to learn about it, it was within once I started to address my trauma within the first 3 weeks, and I'd lived with this chronic pain for like nearly 3 years by this point. And within the 3 weeks, I was literally pain free. I was able to go for a walk. I wasn't able to walk on the beach. I wasn't able to walk the dog for more than 20 minutes because it was so painful. Um, and that just really proved to me that, like, your emotions, your memories, it's all held in the body, right? And this is why we can't think our way out of our pain, our chronic pain, and our triggers, and our emotions. It really does need to come from the body,
mm.
because that's where the body is holding. The body keeps the score, right? You've
Yeah.
People probably read that book, and it's a fantastic book. It's a really good place to start if you're really new to this sort of like trauma work. I would highly recommend going and getting that book and giving that one a good old read. It's not the easiest thing to read, but it really will change, I think, your perception on like how emotions get
Mm,
stored in the body, and also around like the medical side of things, like the medical system and stuff as well.
mm,
Um, but yeah, I would say like it would show up as chronic pain, overwhelm, stress, reactivity. So, like, things like yelling at the kids, feeling
mm,
frustrated all the time, depression, anxiety, all those mental health issues. This stuff can, like the nervous system work, can be so
mm,
incredibly powerful for that as well. It really is the baseline to everything else.
mm. And
Mm.
then obviously that leads into, so many other conversations and topics around if we are experiencing those type of symptoms. And I know for me in the past, like before I got into this work, I would be using things like alcohol to
Mm.
basically, I
Numb.
don't want to say numb, but yeah, to get through the evening with my kids because I had like two young kids, and I remember bathing my kids on a Friday with wines because just the thought of dealing with them after a week at work, which was stressful enough, to then managing the kids and that whole routine. It's like getting then in this cycle. So yeah, can you just talk to us a little bit about, I guess, the things that people would use to like suppress these like symptoms that they're experiencing because of their nervous system, and how this is like that vicious cycle almost. And I think people don't realize like we have the power to heal ourselves once we have this knowledge and have the tools, instead of the vices that maybe some people use, which can then spiral. And obviously it's such a complex topic, and there's so many nuances here, mental health and everything. But just generally speaking, for the average everyday woman or man like me and you that have the everyday stresses of life, where we reach for those things to, I guess, regulate ourselves so we don't feel those uncomfy things like the anxiety, the stress, the whatever it is.
Yeah, I think like what you said, it's the drugs, the alcohol, the binge watching, um,
The
TV,
scrolling.
the
Oh,
scrolling on your phone,
I'm bad for
all
that.
those things that you do to like overeating, over shopping, constantly buying things for that like dopamine hit.
Mm.
Mm,
Even
yeah.
overworking as well. I think sometimes,
Overworking's a massive
yeah.
thing,
But
because we
that's
live in
almost
such a,
praised, isn't it? That's
yeah,
praised upon almost. Yeah.
yeah, like not seeing rest as like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not allowed to rest, if you've got an unhealthy um relationship with resting, and maybe you were labeled lazy when you were younger, and don't be lazy and
Mm.
got to always be doing something, and it's constantly moving towards that achieving, I guess, which is really praised in our culture. So
Mm.
there can be some sort of like, I guess, sneaky
Mm.
ways that people dissociate, and also in healthy ways as well, like some of the healing modalities. Like for me, one of the ways that I would avoid my feelings was trying to stay positive all the time.
Mm.
um and doing the yoga to so that I didn't have to like feel my feelings.
Yeah.
I wasn't using yoga as a practice to connect with my body. I was using it as a space to like just disconnect from everything else.
Mm.
I see this so often. So it's like, if you do already have like a healing practice or a spiritual practice, it's like really questioning and looking at that and saying, okay, like, is this helping me like deepen in, or is this part like a healthy dissociation tool that I'm using? And as well, that's not always like bad. You don't always have to be in awareness and doing
Mm.
work. Sometimes, yeah, you do want to just chuck on Netflix and dissociate, whatever.
Yeah. But
But
it's being
are
aware
we
that you're doing it, isn't it?
consciously, yeah,
Yeah.
like consciously, are we
Yeah.
consciously doing that and showing up in that way? Are
Yeah.
we using our breathwork practice to escape and go to this galaxy? And then I went to the
Mm.
moon, then I went and saw my spirit guides, and it's like, all right, cool, that sounds like an amazing experience, but how are you using that to then create a better life here on earth right now for yourself?
Yeah.
So it's being really aware, and I think that's something that I'm very cautious of and aware of
Mm.
in my own life, and being part of that sort of like healing space,
Yeah.
is why are we doing this practice, and like what are we hoping to get or gain from it? Because some of
Mm.
the things that we lean on, that we think are helpful, can turn out
Mm.
to be us still just escaping. We're just doing it in like a more healthier, conscious way.
Yeah.
And that then feeds into like this ego of like, oh, I'm better than everyone else because I'm not
Mm.
watching Netflix. You know,
Mm.
and
You're
like,
still
I'm
bypassing. Yeah.
sober, like I don't drink
Yeah.
alcohol, so therefore I'm better than you.
Mm.
They're just bypassing in a different,
Yeah.
like spiritually bypassing in a
Yeah.
totally different way. So I think it's being like super conscious of like
Yeah.
what vices we are using, and like how is that helping us create the life that we want, you know
Would you say it would be fair to say, in an ideal world, it would be amazing if we could all get to the place where we don't have to rely on practices that actually, you know, feeling our emotions and this nervous system work is just like part of our everyday life, like we would brushing our teeth. So when, a feeling comes up for us, we have the tools to be able to process that in a healthy way, like not push it down, not suppress it, but actually go and process that emotion, so because ultimately to heal is to feel. But I think there's, like you said, there's so much noise around all these practices, and like you said, the breath work and the ice baths and all these things and the saunas. And it's like, yeah, but are you actually like feeling your feelings? Because that is the gateway to freedom. It's as simple as that. So if you're not doing that, then you're just going to be going round and round in circles until you actually do that. And I
Yeah.
would love, and I'm still on my own journey and I'm still getting there, but I really try to feel as they come up. And it's not always in the moment, of course. But that would be the ultimate goal, right? That we all just are able to just feel our emotions like it's like we would fart. Do you know what I mean? Like just a
Yeah. And
normal
I,
thing that we do.
yeah, in an ideal world where we don't live in the culture and the society that we live in, right? Because it's not built for nervous system health. Let's face it, right? The systems and this way it is a bigger issue than just your own experience, right? It's a systemic issue. We have built all these systems and society and culture, and it's not trauma aware, it's not nervous system aware in any
Mm.
way, shape or form, and this is why this work's so important.
Yeah,
Well, to me, is like to start to help people bring that into their homes, so then that can have the ripple effect of
yeah,
like then into their children and then into those children, because I see it so often in systems, and it's like a lot of the time we've got to live in this, we've got to live in this society, right? We've got to be able to live in this world, um, and we need to be able to look after ourselves and, like you say, feel your feelings. So I think really where the like intersection of that is knowing that you can, maybe in this moment, yes, you've got the space, the time to actually like sit with that and be with that and let it pass through. But when the times that you don't have that, because you're driving, you're in the middle of Woolworths, and I nearly said Tesco. I nearly said Tesco. Then it's like you're in Tesco. Don't live in
we've
England
got a
to
few
your
people
love.
from the UK on the call. They will know. They
If
will
you're
know.
in Tesco's, then you might not want to stop there and
Yeah.
feel your feelings. You won't want to do it at home in your safe place. And I
Mm.
talk a bit about in my containers, I talk a little bit about like having this little treasure box inside of you, where when something big does happen and you don't have the time, energy, capacity, whatever it is, you don't have the resources to deal with it in that moment, you can put it in that little box and you can lock it in there and you can carry it around with you for a bit, and then wait until you are in a safe space that you've intentionally created, which is something else that I help people do. Um, and then you can
Amazing.
unpack it there, you
Yeah.
know. But what is really important as well, what came up for me when you was talking, is this confusion around the tools,
Mm.
the breath work and the yoga, the cold plunges, the things. They're the tools, right? They're the tools. They aren't actually the nervous system regulation itself, and people get confused with those two things, and they're not the same thing. So we do the yoga and the breath work because so many of us are so dissociated from our bodies. We are not embodied beings, we're living outside. That's how we are conditioned to live externally. What is happening out there, all of my problems are going to get solved if I ask all the people outside here, the doctors, the nurses, the coaches, the healers. Everyone else has got all of the information, and it's not inside here, um so I think I don't think, I know the yoga and the breath work is to help you become aware of your body. That is what the tool is for. Yeah, sometimes it can help you become regulated because it helps you feel calm and peaceful. But as we talked about before, calm and peace isn't always what regulated is.
Mm. Yeah.
That's not always what regulated is. You can be screaming, expressing yourself, be in anger, and still be regulated.
Mm.
There's so many layers to
Mm.
regulation. It's not just like regulation equals calm.
Yeah,
And
true.
story. That isn't the end of the story. There's so
Mm.
many different things that can be happening
Mm.
in your nervous system. And as I said before, it's having that capacity to hold it all, the capacity
Mm.
to be with the anger and not make it wrong, not make
Yeah.
it painful.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
the breath work and the yoga and the cold plunges, and this is why I think as well they get so more and more outrageous, is because the more disembodied you are, yeah, the higher the activity needs to be. So it needs
Mm.
to be the cold plunge, because the people that are really disembodied, it needs something really strong to get them back into their body.
Mm.
And
Mm.
then for people that are already overwhelmed, jumping in a cold pool then hits bam. But they're not, they think that they're regulating, but actually what they're doing is they're then ramping up that survival state.
Mm.
Their body goes,
Interesting.
which is the
Mm.
shock reflex, right? It's like, and then,
Mm.
and if their body hasn't learned what I'm going to tell you about in a
Mm.
minute, and that's how to come back down to your safety baseline,
Mm.
then
That's really interesting,
we
that is,
actually
isn't it?
stay up here.
Yeah.
We might go down a little bit because we've just
Mm.
gone, oh, we're in survival, we're in survival, we jump in the pool, we go all the way
Mm.
up here, and then we maybe we
Mm.
come back down to here.
Yeah.
We're still in survival because we
Mm.
haven't actually come back down to our safety baseline, because we don't actually know what our safety baseline is.
Mm.
We've never
Interesting.
actually even inquired. You know, we go off and we do all these practices, but where's the safety anchor? Like, where
Mm.
are we trying to, like, it's like um going on a journey, right? It's like typing into the map, I want to go here. And it's like, okay, but where are you now?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I love
okay,
that.
I'm in Perth. Oh, I should have put that in first, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
But we don't. We just
Yeah.
go and we do the breath work and we get on the
Mm.
train, you
And we're
know.
all at different levels, so and then we might all just jump on like an ice bath, but that might be more harm than good for some people, depending on where they're at. Is that right?
I would say for 99% of people
Mm.
living in this current culture and world that we live in, running around like blue ass flies,
Yeah.
a
Not okay.
cold bath is not going to, especially for women.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
lot of the practices out there as well, they're men, they're for men.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
that's a whole new conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
But the
We'll save
main
that for
the
another
main
week.
thing that the main lane we were going
Yeah.
down is that those practices are to help you feel. They're to help you have a relationship. And I teach them myself. I teach yoga myself. I
Mhm.
teach it in a trauma informed nervous system way. And that is to help you build a relationship and a conversation with your body. So you're not just going and doing the shapes and then going, oh, yeah, I feel better.
Mhm.
It's actually building a conversation with your body so that you can start to know, oh, actually when I do this pose, that actually feels really uncomfortable, and this is what safety feels like in my body, and this is what stress feels like in my body, and we pendulate between those states. We move in and we move out, so we can start to understand what stress and safety feels like in our body.
Mm. Love
So
that.
much of the content out there as well is like a one size fits all.
Mm.
And our nervous systems aren't a one size fits all. So what might be really activating for one person could be relaxing for another
Mm.
person. So it's all about knowing our body, knowing our safety and our stress.
I love that. So, what are your tips? What are the actions that you're going to give us so we can start putting some of this stuff into practice?
Yes, so the best place to start your nervous system journey is by understanding your safety baseline. So, really, like I said before, knowing where you're at before knowing where you're going. So, knowing where you're at now and having some awareness about how safe or unsafe you feel in your body. Um, and then we can start to move along to the 1,200 other steps.
Mhm. And so,
But the biggest,
how would someone know where they are at? Is there like a scale? Would you rate it? So, would you say to someone like on a scale of 1 to 10, like 10 just feeling like just really unsafe, and one, or like vice versa, one being not safe at all, 10 super safe, like just checking with your body, like what number would you give it? Is that how you would work out where someone is at right now, or is there a whole other system behind it?
well, Kelly, I've created, I have created a guided
Oh,
embodied practice.
okay.
And if you put your details, say safety in the comments below, I'll
Mhm.
send you the link.
Okay. I'm
And
going to
you
do it after
go
this. I'm
through,
excited.
you can go through my little safety practice where I
Yeah.
do all of my clients.
Hmm.
Um, and you can start to build this relationship with your body to really understand and know what safety feels like for you inside your system. So, the first part of this really is about finding that baseline, which, like I said, is what most coaches and general public humans miss.
Hmm.
Um, and is missed so often in the healing space, and in the nervous system world. So that's the first part, and then the second part is then starting to create a personalized safety blueprint around what feels safe and unsafe for you in your nervous system, which I've got a whole course around.
Hmm.
um
And is that
that
like, so would you use that, so you'd get the like your workshop sessions, like move through that, so then you have an understanding of where you're at, and then you would create this blueprint so that you actually have something tangible to work with, so as you're moving through your day life and things come up, you're like, oh my God, like just for example, me the other day, I was having a pedicure, right? And I was like, I'm gonna go get a pedicure, I'm gonna feel really relaxed, and I'm gonna have a bit of self-care. And I could feel my body go straight into like this dysregulation. I was just like heightened, and I was just watching what she was doing. It was a different lady than I usually have. It's like, are my expectations going to be met? Are they not? And I just spiraled, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be having this relaxing pedicure here, and I'm not, because I'm so worried about what she's doing with my toes, if she's going to do a good job or not. And I had to really like, I just didn't enjoy it. And then I was like, what is this pattern? Why is this happening? So is it that you'll have a tool where you can just be like, okay, this is happening. I'm feeling really stressed when I should be relaxed. What is this? And what can I do to kind of bring me back and like work through it? Is that what your your program does? Will it help people in those kind of situations? Or if they're feeling triggered by their kids and things like that?
So the creating your safety blueprint is more for returning to safety after a stressful event.
Mm. Okay.
And we have, and it's also about creating what I call micro moments of safety throughout your day so that you don't get to the end of your day and feel completely dysregulated, overwhelmed, burnt out, reaching for the wine, reaching
Mm.
for the crisps, doing the things that you didn't want to do.
Mm.
It's
Cool.
it's really like a nervous system care plan in action for everyday life.
Love that.
The triggers, what you're talking about, that's a deeper program, and that's my framework around the emotional freedom framework around how to heal your triggers. So the people that are snapping at the kids, um spiraling into a trigger, that would be a bit, that's like the next, that's like next level. So we start with the safety, and then the next
Okay.
level. So let me give you just one little example before we wrap
Hmm.
this up, because I know it's going over time now, and I really want to sort of, yeah. Anyways, so my friend, she had been on this program with me, the safety blueprint. She created a safety blueprint, and then like a week or two after, she witnessed a car accident, and she was first on scene. It was quite traumatic for her to, see all this
Mm.
stuff unfold. And she reached out to me and said, she said, Leashia, shall I tell you what I did? She said, I got my safety blueprint out, and I used that to help guide me back to safety. And she said it took a few days
Yeah.
to get herself back to safety. But she said, hadn't I, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have known what to do. And she said,
Mm.
I would have just been panicking. I would have been,
Mm.
feeling all that, not knowing what to do with all this energy. She
Mm.
said she had the trembles, she was shaking. And she said, I knew all of that was okay. And it was my body trying to process like the trauma of what had
Yeah.
happened, because I'd been through your program, and I knew um, the signs. And I
Yeah.
also had my blueprint that I could return to help me return to safety after that stressful event. And she was like, I'm so grateful. Da, 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 da. So,
Mm.
it's obviously doesn't have to be that
Yeah,
of
but
a
that's a
big
good
event,
example.
but that just
Yeah.
shows you the power of
Yeah.
knowing how to look after your own nervous system. And that's really
Yeah.
what that program's
I
about.
love that. If that can be so helpful for such a traumatic, stressful event like that, imagine how helpful it can be just, for everyday life stresses. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So everyone comment safety in the comment, and Leisha will send you her, what is it called? Sorry, Leisha? The
Safety baseline.
safety baseline.
Yeah, so that's really
Amazing.
like the first step to
Yeah,
finding your safety baseline.
I love that. Oh, good conversation. Oh, so, so good. So everybody will be back here. Thank you, Leisha, for your amazing expertise, your amazing wisdom. I've learned so much. And I'm definitely going to actually, yeah, look at my own safety baseline to see where I'm at. So thank you. And we'll be back next week, switching the topic up to human design. But of course, these pieces just work so much because human design is the awareness, but we can't live our design unless we feel, safe in our bodies, which is the nervous system work. So thank you for sharing.
No worries. Thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure with you, my dear.
Always.
Yeah, excited.
Thank you everyone for joining as well. And thank you for everyone that commented. Thanks, Harmandeep, for your comments. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
what a legend.
Bye, everyone.
Namaste.
Namaste.